We have obviously some very big news here. Kamala Harris has chosen her VP pick. We are looking at a Harris-Walz ticket in 2024. So very big news. I apologize for being a tad late. Living in Los Angeles is not great for watching news break when it happens at 6 o'clock in the morning. So, very exciting news for Kamala Harris. Tim Walz was the really the do no harm pick here. So, there was a little bit of controversy surrounding Josh Shapiro, and you look at somebody like Tim Walz, who very clearly, very easily animated and united the entire left. So that's very good news. This is the pick that will keep that momentum going, keep the energy going, keep that party unity going, and hopefully continue to bring in this sense of enthusiasm among Democrats, which really has led to skyrocketing poll numbers for Kamala Harris thus far. So all really good news. Tim Walz, again, a fantastic pick. I ran a poll just to see what people thought in terms of who she would choose, and ironically enough, our poll, which included the three finalists according to CNN, Josh Shapiro, Mark Kelly, and Tim Walz actually won that poll. So looks like people watching here had a pretty good sense of what Kamala Harris would do as we got down to the wire here. So we are looking at I'm going to read some reporting that I'm seeing thus far, and this has been probably one of the biggest points of virtue for Tim Walz, that he provided free breakfast and lunch for children in Minnesota. There is a picture of Tim Walz with those kids surrounded by like school kids that's especially famous right now because I don't know if you're looking for the extent to which this guy is beloved in his state, that kind of goes ahead and proves exactly that. With that said, I will take the opportunity right now to answer questions if you have them, so you can go ahead and throw them in the chat right now. Kyle Griffin reporting that he enlisted in the National Guard when he was 17, served for more than 2 decades. Again, a point of contrast between Kamala Harris's ticket and Donald Trump's ticket. You look at Trump himself, who avoided service, claiming that he had bone spurs. Now you have someone like Tim Walz, enlisted in the National Guard, served for more than 2 decades. He was also a high school social studies teacher, football coach, and now he is the governor of Minnesota. So he will benefit from that same sense of Midwestern, appeal that, again, is largely lost with somebody like, in fairness, that is largely lost with somebody like Trump and Kamala Harris herself. I mean, you have a New York billionaire going up against a San Francisco liberal, and so this is going to be beneficial in terms of giving a permission structure to these Midwestern voters who are looking, for a reason to cast their ballot for someone other than Donald Trump here. Do I see any downside to Walz versus one of the other picks? There's no direct downside to Walz. In fact, the only downside, and this is what I spoke about yesterday if she were to choose him, the only downside is that he doesn't confer some direct electoral benefit to his state because he's from Minnesota and Democrats will do fine in Minnesota. The only downside I foresaw is that, for example, Josh Shapiro was the governor of a state that Democrats absolutely need to win, and he's an exceedingly popular governor of that state. But that's not to say that Tim Walz won't do just as well as Josh Shapiro. But, looking at Josh Shapiro and knowing that he's 61% popular in the state of Pennsylvania, that one would assume that would confer some direct electoral benefit. But again, that's not to say that Tim Walz won't do just as well as Josh Shapiro in the state of Pennsylvania. It's just not as obvious as choosing Josh Shapiro. Of course, there were plenty of other downsides to the prospect of choosing Josh Shapiro, such as the fact that a lot of progressives in the Democratic Party didn't like him, and he had aligned himself too closely with Israel in their view. So, but otherwise, no, there was no direct disadvantage of choosing Tim Walz. In fact, he was the do no harm candidate. He was the safe choice in all of this. He was also endorsed by the labor unions, another big plus in the Democratic Party. Not only uniting that labor union front and that demographic, but also progressives, young people on the left who largely united behind him as the favorite. I was asked, my only question is, how comfortable is it sleeping in a suit? Not very comfortable, in fact. Not comfortable at all. Tell you what, would not recommend living in Los Angeles if you are going to get into news. You can keep throwing questions in the chat. Just make sure to tag my name so I can see them. And of course, if you're not yet subscribed to this channel and you want to be able to participate in the chat, that's how you do it. Some of the policies Walz signed into law in Minnesota: universal school meals, which I was speaking about before; stronger labor protections, again I was speaking about before; cannabis legalization; LGBT protections; paid sick leave; 100% clean energy by 2030; reproductive rights protections; $1 billion for housing, gun safety, and cutting child poverty by a third. So if there was any doubt about his progressive bona fides while still being able to appeal to Midwestern Americans, this is exactly that. Can't Josh Shapiro still campaign to bring Pennsylvania for Harris and Tim Walz bring Wisconsin and Michigan? Absolutely, and I highly expect that they will. Just because somebody's not on the ticket doesn't mean they lose their ability to be a surrogate for the ticket itself. I expect that we'll see Shapiro continue to campaign in Pennsylvania, that we'll see Gretchen Whitmer campaign in Michigan, that we'll see Tony Evers and Ben Wickler campaign in Wisconsin. This is this is just the beginning here. There's the picture that I was looking at.
Is now
and when you have a picture like this,
good job, Webster.
And also
It is now
overturning Roe and stripping women's reproductive rights away, that really does put the difference in this election on full display. How excited am I for the weird normal guy debate? That is a great point. Tim Walz was super effective in driving home this narrative that the Trump-Vance ticket is weird and that Republicans are being weird, and they are being weird, other than just Donald Trump's usual weirdness about flushing toilets and Hannibal Lecter and all of that stuff, but also their whole agenda of being obsessed with what women do in their doctor's offices, with what men and women do in their bedrooms, with what LGBT couples do, with what people do in the privacy of their own home with regard to masturbation, with regard to interstate travel. I mean, Republicans are so obsessed with controlling people, and that is not normal. That is weird. And Tim Walz has been super effective in terms of bringing that really into the forefront in this election. So yes, this will be a referendum on which kind of person America wants to be represented by. Is it someone like this who would sign, legislation to make sure that kids get free lunches and who's just a normal guy, like has the America's dad vibes? Or do you want someone like Donald Trump and JD Vance who are there to tell women what they have to do with their own bodies and what can happen in a doctor's office and what can happen in your bedroom and what judges have to dictate what you can do in the privacy of your own home? And like, it's the perfect setup in this election that was already the perfect setup in terms of being a referendum on a prosecutor versus a felon, on a champion for reproductive rights versus an opponent of reproductive rights. So this just adds one more layer to that, and very much looking forward to that, because I think Tim Walz is going to be a really, really effective surrogate and a really effective VP candidate. All right, Pete for Secretary of State. Very interesting. I think that would be a fantastic choice. I would love to see that. The notion that Pete wouldn't be in the cabinet, I think that would be a huge mistake. And so I would love to see some type of high-ranking cabinet official position for Pete. I'll just take this opportunity real quick while I continue to answer questions. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel and you want to support this live stream, support this work, support the fact that somebody who's living in Los Angeles is now up at 6:46 in the morning and on camera, please subscribe to this channel. It's a great way to support what I do. It doesn't cost anything to do so, but again, it'll support these live streams, and I'd very much appreciate it. Isn't Walz representing doubling down on progressive electorate, the same mistake made by Trump? So no, I don't believe so at all. Tim Walz is actually giving a permission structure to Midwestern voters, to moderate voters, to go ahead and vote for this ticket because of who he is. He's also stood firmly behind a progressive agenda. But you look at Tim Walz, this is not a San Francisco liberal. This is a Democrat who has served in the military, who stands behind normal policies, normal democratic policies. Look, these are progressive policies, but is there anything too left about free school lunches for kids? Is there anything too far left about labor protections? This is the Democratic Party we're talking about. This is a pro-union party. It's not a communist Marxist position to take to be pro-labor. It's not a communist Marxist position to take to be pro-cannabis in the year 2024, where it has like 80% support. It's winning referendums in Ohio, for example. So again, I don't want to conflate like leftist positions with stuff that is widely adopted, not only in the country, but even among Republicans. And that is what cannabis legislation is. That is what strong labor protections are. That is what school meals are. So again, this is not somebody who's going out there and saying that we need to do universal basic income, or that we need Medicare for all tomorrow, or something like that. I mean, if you look at this agenda right here, reproductive rights, overwhelmingly popular among Democrats and Republicans in this country. Paid sick leave, overwhelmingly popular. Cannabis legalization, overwhelmingly popular. Labor protections, overwhelmingly popular. School lunches for kids, overwhelmingly popular. So I get that we look at a progressive agenda. Here's the thing. There is no equivalency between a progressive agenda and the far left of the party versus a Republican agenda and the far right. I mean, look at what Republicans are passing right now and tell me which one of these policies enjoy even majority protection in their own party. Stripping women's reproductive rights away is not even popular among Republicans, and that is a far-right policy that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump espouse. There's no equivalency between something like that and and universal school meals, or legalizing cannabis, or paid sick leave, or reproductive rights. These are things that yes, they're progressive, but they're just democratic, and in fact, they're just popular among Americans altogether. So I think that's the difference between the two sides, and why this is not, why Tim Walz, even though he's able to pass legislation that progressives are proud of, is not the equivalent of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who are advocating for far-right extremist positions that, far from having the support of all Americans, don't even have the support of Republicans. I'm also being reminded he signed the Voting Rights Act in Minnesota. So another good omen of what's to come in terms of where his priorities lie. And no, this is not some far left communist Marxist leftist agenda. This is the Voting Rights Act. This is to make sure that people have the ability to exercise their most fundamental right as Americans, which is to vote. Do I think Walz and J.D. Vance will debate? I do believe so. There's no reason to believe that they won't. And, I think that I'm very much looking forward to watching these two guys get up there. J.D. Vance going real thick on the eyeliner, and these two guys facing off. And remember, J.D. Vance will have to defend his position as calling for an end to abortion, while Tim Walz has been a champion for reproductive rights. I mean, just having these two guys on stage, you could not find a bigger contrast in American politics. And luckily for Democrats, Tim Walz not only espouses the right positions, but he's a super effective communicator. And the fact that this guy could go from complete obscurity within the Democratic Party, other than within the state of Minnesota, to the hands-down favorite for the majority of Democrats and certainly progressives, is a testament to just how effective he's been on the campaign trail as a speaker, as a surrogate. So contrast that with what J.D. Vance's weird on-stage quasi-comedy routine, where he says things that he thinks are funny and nobody laughs, and the guy's got no riz whatsoever, and he's just overall completely awkward. You're going to have these two guys on stage putting that difference on full display, and that's going to be underscored by the fact that if Trump and Kamala Harris ever get on stage, that's going to be even further exploited. While he goes, on and on about windmills and imaginary cannibals and this idea that World War II hasn't happened yet, and that Jeb Bush got us involved in the war in the Middle East, and on and on and on. Okay, back to questions here. As a regular viewer from the Netherlands, I've noticed the U.S. tends to prefer strongmen in politics, yet Walt seems like a cool, kind uncle. Will that prove a challenge? I think that Americans, if there is one thing that we are sick of, it is these small, insecure men posing as strongmen and telling us that that's what we need in our politics. We've had that, and what it results in is, while you think that you're like a strongman leading the U.S. and aligning yourself with the world's autocrats and dictators, the world is just laughing at us, and we get nothing but chaos from it. This whole notion that, this all stems from like the 2016 election, where everybody was solely focused on this idea that Hillary Clinton's too emotional to be president. And so what happened? Donald Trump won, the most insecure, thin-skinned man in the entire world, who is led solely by his insatiable desire for adulation, his completely fragile ego and his ability to just, his inability to do anything without having a crowd around, kind of turned that whole concept on its head. And so I think that if there's one thing Americans don't want right now, it is this Trumpist brand of politics where it's just led by insecure guys who will do anything for to massage their own ego and surround themselves with yes men who will do the exact same thing. So no, I don't think that's going to prove a challenge. Look, in terms of relating to people, do you want like these quasi-authoritarian strongmen like Trump and Vance versus somebody who's just there to make sure that they are a champion for reproductive rights and that they're going to protect climate change, make sure kids don't die in school, make sure kids have lunches in school? In terms of reaching out to people and relating to regular people, that's going to prove way more effective in this country. And our elections are cyclical. They go through different cycles depending on who we just had. We just went through, from 2016 to 2020, 4 years of Trump. We've largely still been going through years of Trump as he's never disappeared from the zeitgeist. And, when people get fed up with something, they're going to look for something else. And so while the strongman might have worked over the last few years, if there's one thing that people are fed up with, it's exactly that. Shapiro seemed like a great choice, but opposition researchers would have had a field day with the voucher support as well as some UAW discomfort with his positions. That's right. It was the unions who came out strong for Tim Walz. That's going to be great to continue on with a lot of what Biden had done, a lot of the support he'd garnered by being very pro-union, by being the most pro-union president in modern American history. So Kamala Harris will continue that with this ticket by having Tim Walz on there. And yes, it would have been more difficult with Shapiro because it did seem like, regardless of the direct electoral benefits that would be conferred by virtue of him being a very popular governor of Pennsylvania, there were a lot of progressives in the Democratic Party who made abundantly clear that he would be a difficult choice for them to swallow. Do I think Kamala Harris will have positions in her administration for Shapiro, Buttigieg, and others? I hope so. Look, this is an opportunity to again, give a higher profile to some Democrats in this party who are doing great work. I don't know if she would necessarily need to give a cabinet position to Josh Shapiro. He's still the governor of Pennsylvania. He's exceedingly popular, and that is a state that Democrats do need to keep winning. And so this might be a good opportunity to keep a popular governor in Pennsylvania and allow him to act as a surrogate for her and Tim Walz in that state so that we can make sure to win and so that he himself can continue winning as a popular governor in what is largely a swing state, if not one that skews a little bit to the left. But Buttigieg, absolutely a great opportunity to see him get a cabinet position. There will be Gavin Newsom, for example, and he's term limited in 2026 as California's governor. So it remains to be seen what happens with him. Maybe there's an opportunity there for Gavin Newsom to get some type of cabinet position. There are a lot of young Democrats who I think she will have the opportunity to elevate their profile in terms of cabinet positions. Wes Moore, the popular governor of Maryland, remains to be seen whether he remains in that spot because, again, Kamala Harris could use a new administration coming up in 2024 to elevate the position of somebody like that. For those just joining, yes, Kamala Harris did pick a VP. For those just waking up, maybe we have some fellow West Coasters here who are just stumbling into this room. And yes, Kamala Harris has chosen Tim Walz as her VP pick. Can Harris's war chest donate to battleground states in House and Senate races? So she can't donate, but she can continue to build out, like when you donate your money to Kamala Harris, that's who you've donated to. They can't then take that money and donate to somebody else, but they can use that money effectively and build out field offices. And of course, the more support that Kamala Harris has, the more down ballot support that she'll have. So just by virtue of her being able to use her war chest will have major down ballot implications for other Democrats in the House, in the Senate, in state legislative races. Do I think she can win Pennsylvania without Shapiro? Absolutely. Look, we still have Josh Shapiro, who is going to be a surrogate and an advocate for her and Tim Walz on the campaign trail. She is still, gaining in popularity. I believe that the last polls that we saw. Let's see what we're looking at in terms of Pennsylvania polling. Well, if that's not close enough for you, I don't know what is. Harris leads in the 538 aggregate of polling, 45.5 to 44.4. Let's see if we can get some more specifics here. So if we go back to July, you'll see that Trump was, let's see, we can't actually go a little further than that. So it looks like, according to some of these polls, they're about even. Trump leading by 1, Harris leading by 4, Harris leading by 3, Trump leading by 1. And these are all relatively recent polls. But actually, we haven't had any good, high-quality polling in August, although the Fabrizio, which I believe is, if I'm not mistaken, that is Donald Trump's pollster. But let me confirm. Yes, he is Donald Trump's pollster. So these are Republican polls that show Kamala Harris even, so you can take that for what it's worth. But otherwise, we don't have any high-quality polling yet from the month of August. And certainly we have no polling since Walz was named VP. But again, when you contrast the Walz and Vance of it all, then it's going to be, I believe that we're going to see that polling, see some breakout news in terms of that polling. Again, just for those watching real quick, while I answer questions, if you want to support this live stream, my work, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'll continue doing live streams on a daily basis like I am now, and I'll continue to do my interviews and breaking news videos. So again, if you want to support that work and follow along, please do me a favor and make sure to subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. Do I think Jasmine Crockett would be a good fit for a cabinet position? I think she's excellent. She's one of the best members of her class that's come forward, one of the most effective speakers. Look, Democrats are lucky right now. We have as deep a bench as you could possibly hope for. And so I think that we should continue hammering away at elevating these people in any way that we can. Jasmine Crockett's on the Oversight Committee. She seems to have no problem in terms of elevating her own profile. So I don't know that she necessarily needs Kamala Harris to name her to a cabinet position, but if she did, she would kick ass in it. Will Jack Smith be the new Attorney General? I do not think so. Look, I would love to see, I'm biased here, but I would love to see the new Attorney General be one Glenn Kirshner. So that's just my choice in all of this. Will it happen? Unlikely, but we can hope.
School starts next week. It is a school bus. The arm is out. Stop and get our kids to school safely. This is a sense of pride for all of us. It's the roots of our agricultural base, but it's more, as you heard everybody talk about, building strength in those communities. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, see? That's Tim Walz carving a butter bus. What American won't like that? And so, look, I think she was especially smart to go with Tim Walz because we are looking at, and this is a comment I just got, she went with the most progressive option. That gives me hope. The whole point of why Kamala Harris has been surging in support right now is because she has the support of young people, of progressives who were demoralized, who were unenthused. And the second she came out and we have a young, promising, hopeful candidate, look at the endorsements that flooded in. And so now she's going to continue that exact thing with somebody like Tim Walz, who does have the support of progressives, which means we're going to continue seeing enthusiasm, continue seeing young people get involved, continue expanding our tent, continue seeing celebrities come forward and endorse this ticket and come out, because it gives people something to be hopeful for. It gives young people something to be hopeful for in terms of their future. It gives them a reason to get involved in the political process. That's the kind of stuff that you can't force. And so there was a groundswell of support behind Tim Walz, and that's going to be really instrumental in terms of continuing to bring people into this process who wouldn't have otherwise been brought into this process. And remember, we have this. She has the support of the vast majority of Democrats. The difference now is going to be finding a ticket that she could use to garner enthusiasm among people who weren't already involved in the political process, people who weren't already going to vote. And so now Tim Walz offers exactly that. It offers a permission structure for young people, for progressives to continue to get involved, to know that this administration has the best interest of the next generation at heart in terms of what they're doing. And so I think that, the same enthusiasm that we've seen thus far is gonna continue and to increase exponentially as we head toward November now as the result of this choice. It was the smart choice. It was the do no harm choice for sure. And Tim Walz has made the case for himself as effectively as possible, and definitely look forward to continuing to watch him on the campaign trail making the case for this ticket. And there we go. Donald Trump already campaigning against Tim Walz as VP. Tim Walz will unleash hell on earth. He's already pulling in millions to wipe MAGA out. And so, of course, that's Donald Trump's, that's a predicate for him to start raising money. It doesn't even mean anything. Unleash hell on earth? This whole campaign from Donald Trump is just predicated on doomerism and demagoguery. It doesn't make any sense. Trump came out yesterday and said that we were headed toward a depression because the stock market had a bad session after the longest and strongest ascendant run in the stock market, probably in modern times, and certainly in decades. And yet we had a bad day where the market lost 2.5%, and they were calling it a depression already, and then said that we were headed toward World War III. And by the way, the market is up almost a point. Over a point in the S&P 500, almost a point in the Dow, almost a point in the NASDAQ. So I guess they got ahead of their skis a little bit when they said that we were headed toward a depression, because we had one bad session in a stock market that's been going up for the entirety of Biden's presidency. It's just an outright joke. They will use anything to fearmonger. They will use anything to scare the shit out of their audience. That is all that this entire campaign is predicated on. And mark my words, as we head towards September and October, we'll start hearing about caravans, about brown people coming in to sell drugs to your kids and rape your wives like they always do. The whole campaign on the Republican side is based in fear and demagoguery and the prospect of war and high gas prices, and don't elect Democrats because everything in life will be more difficult for you. But if we're looking at the smart economic choice, actually the only dangerous time in American history, economically speaking now, in at least in the last 30 years, more than 30 years, my entire lifetime since I've been alive, the only thing that's especially bad for the U.S. economy is Republican leadership. The last three Republicans, Bush 1, Bush 2, and Donald Trump, have all ended in recessions. The last three Democratic presidents have all cleaned up their messes, led to booming times. All of them had a lower unemployment rate than the Republican predecessors. All of them had stronger economic performance than the Republican predecessors. All of them had higher job growth than the Republican predecessors. The worst thing for the U.S. economy is Republican leadership. And the numbers bear that out, and they have bared that out for the entirety of my lifetime. I've never seen a Republican president perform better economically than a Democratic president, or have better job growth than a Democratic president, or lower unemployment than a Democratic president. I'm getting this question a lot. Do I think Pennsylvania is still good for Democrats right now? Absolutely. Look, Pennsylvania is a state that Democrats won in the last election. I think that we will still have Josh Shapiro as a very popular surrogate in that state right now. A lot of the states that Donald Trump won in 2016, have opted not to vote for him again in 2020. And since then, since 2020, think about what's happened. We've had the insurrection. We've had Roe be overturned. We've had Vance come on the ticket, who's outright called for an end to abortion. So this party has only gotten more extreme. Add in the fact that Donald Trump's agenda is predicated on passing Project 2025 and consolidating power in the executive branch and changing our career civil servant workforce into a politically appointed workforce where all of a sudden you would have Trump sycophants and loyalists in charge of the DOJ, the FBI, the IRS, the FCC. Think about how they could weaponize the U.S. government for their benefit and audit people they don't like or that don't agree with Donald Trump. Pull the broadcasting licenses of people who don't agree with Donald Trump, refuse to prosecute those who have, engaged in insurrections on behalf of Donald Trump. So this is an extremist agenda through and through on the Republican side, and I don't think that's going to resonate especially well with voters in Pennsylvania, voters who voted for Joe Biden in 2020. You can continue to throw your questions into the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. One quick note, to support my work beyond subscribing to this channel, another great way to do that is I have a book coming out in just a few days here, and it's called Shameless. I'm going to put the link in the comment section. I'll pin it to the top of this chat. But if you'd like to support me, pre-ordering the book is a great way to do that. Jamie Raskin wrote the foreword. I interviewed Pete Buttigieg for the book, and it really goes into how Republicans have laid the foundation for the work that they're doing right now, whether it's with the advent of Fox News, with the beginning of something called Project Red Map, which was the start of gerrymandering state legislative districts back in 2010 when Obama won. So a lot of the plans that Republicans have laid out are bearing fruit today. And so it's important to know what those plans are, to expose them so that we don't fall victim to the same thing. So a lot of that is covered in the book. Very proud of the way it turned out. So again, if you want to support my work and read a book that I'm really proud of that comes out in just a few days, please click the link on the pinned comments and order Shameless. You can also just check Shameless on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get books. Will I be live streaming the rally tonight? Yes, I will. I'm bookending this day. So started live streaming today at like 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, and we'll be live streaming, I believe that's in less than 12 hours now. But yes, I will be live streaming the rally tonight. Is my book on Amazon and Kindle? Yes, it is. It's on audiobook. I narrate the book, and it's also on there's ebooks, there's audiobooks. I'm the narrator, and it's anywhere you can pre-order books, basically. Anywhere you buy books. I will also be doing a video today on Tim Wall, so stick around to this channel because I'll be doing like a deep dive into who he is. I think this makes the case pretty well. This is Democratic. This is what Democratic policies versus Republican policies looks like in practice. Tim Wall signing legislation to make sure that kids have free school lunches, breakfast and lunches, regardless of their income. Sarah Huckabee Sanders signing legislation to roll back and relax child labor laws. These two pictures put on full display the Democrats versus the Republicans right now. Sarah Huckabee Sanders just beaming at the prospect of sending those kids back into the mines. Meanwhile, Tim Walz using his political capital to make sure that kids can eat. It is also available on Apple Books for those asking, yes. I hope you get a nap in today. I hope I get a nap in today too. I don't even know why I woke up. It was like 6 something, rolled over. I was like, please just let there not be a VP pick yet. And lo and behold, there was. They never think about us on the West Coast when they make news. I was actually, here's a little bit of an interesting story. I was working about a week ago. I was working and it was like 1:30 in the morning and I was just finishing up and wrapping up and getting ready for bed. And then it was like 1:45 when I shut my computer and head into my bedroom. And at about 2, my phone dings, 2 a.m. Pacific, Obama endorses Kamala Harris, and I'm just looking at it. I'm just looking at my phone, and I'm like, really? And so went back into the studio and wrote a video for Kamala Harris being endorsed by Barack Obama. Finished at 4:30 in the morning. But like, nobody ever thinks about, the West Coasters when they're making news. They just figured, okay, we'll release this at 5 a.m. Eastern, but like we're still up on the West Coast. Some of us lunatics are still up on the West Coast. Would I rather have an endorsement from Obama and Biden or Kim Jong-un and Putin? That's really going to be the question of this election here, because those are the two opposing parties when it comes to who's really secured endorsements in 2024. By the way, if there's anybody from DC or LA in this chat, highly unlikely that we have too many LA viewers in this chat right now, but if there's any DC viewers, my book tour is going to Washington, DC. I'll be live with Jen Psaki on August 14th. You can click the link that's pinned at the top of the comment section where it says Shameless, because there's information on my book tour. I will be in DC August 14th with Jen Psaki. So if you'd like to come see me in person, there are still tickets left. The New York show is sadly sold out, but there are still tickets left in Washington, D.C., and still some tickets left in L.A. So if you live in D.C. and L.A. and want to come see me and Jen Psaki on stage on August 14th, so just about a week from now, or Los Angeles on August 26th, so a couple weeks from now, please make sure to click the link pinned at the top of the comments and buy tickets to come see us in person. I'm actually going to drop that in the chat right now. Do I think Pete would have been a better choice to reach younger voters, or I think Walz will be able to do that? Walz will absolutely be able to do that. Remember, Walz was the favorite for progressives. The legislative background that Walz has is hugely progressive. This is going to be a huge boon to this ticket, and absolutely is going to appeal to younger viewers. Again, this is somebody who has used his legislative capital to pass a Voting Rights Act, to pass pass the Voting Rights Act, to pass, why is it that this one word escaping me? Paid sick leave, meals for students, and so I think that in terms of bolstering enthusiasm for progressives, Walz is going to be an excellent choice. And he's also been, again, super effective on the campaign trail, super effective at prosecuting this case, and largely responsible for perpetuating the accurate narrative that Trump and Vance are weird and that Republicans are weird, and he'll be able to continue doing that and energizing the Democratic base. So no, I don't have any worry about his ability to appeal to young people. Sadly, I won't be coming to the South. The book tour is going to be pretty quick because, remember, my book tour is next week. I'll go to New York, I'll go to D.C., and then immediately thereafter is the DNC. So I have to go to Chicago from there. And then after that, I have my event in L.A. But sadly, I won't be able to go to the South. It's going to be a pretty short book tour. But having a shorter book tour will allow me to continue doing live streams like this, for example, doing my regular videos. Do I think Walz's military background, Army National Guard, is what got him in? I think it helps. It helps him appeal to, again, that moderate Democrat who is looking for somebody who has military service as a foil to Kamala Harris's background. But then, I mean, Walz offers something for everyone. He offers something for progressives in terms of the legislative agenda that he's passed. He offers something for Midwesterners in terms of who he is, for former military and independents and Republicans who value that in terms of his own background in the military. So there is something for everybody with Tim Walz. Do I think that Harris-Walz makes it more likely that Trump will dump Vance? Here's what I think that this does. I think this highlights how bad of a pick J.D. Vance is, because not only do you have somebody who's popular, but you have somebody in Tim Walz who definitely is able to appeal to a different swath of the electorate than Kamala Harris herself. Tim Walz, again, you've got a white guy, you've got a Midwesterner, you've got somebody with an agricultural background, you've got somebody with a military background, all things that Kamala Harris herself doesn't directly have. Both of them will advocate for a progressive legislative agenda, but in terms of who Walz is, definitely hits a different mark than Kamala Harris would hit. So all that does is underscore how bad of a tactical decision choosing J.D. Vance was for Trump, because Vance is not a moderate. Vance doesn't come from a swing state. Vance doesn't have a different race or religion or ethnicity. He is a carbon copy of Donald Trump himself. And he brings nobody else into the Trump coalition, if you can even call it a coalition. He just doubles down on exactly the same kind of base voter that Donald Trump himself was already getting. So you derive no added benefit from having somebody like J.D. Vance on the ticket. And yet Donald Trump picked him because he was not just confident but cocky about his choice when he was running against Joe Biden, and decided he doesn't need to expand his tent at all, and so just doubled down on the base. And Kamala Harris not only poses a problem for Trump because she changes the electoral map completely from where it was against Joe Biden, but now she chose someone like Tim Walz, who again very smartly brings in new voters, brings in progressives who see that he has a proven track record of progressive legislation, who bring in military people who see that he has a military background, who bring in white men who will vote for somebody just because there's a white man on the ticket, who bring in people with a military background because of Walz's military background, Midwesterners because that's what he is. So, he checks a lot of boxes that Kamala doesn't, and offers a permission structure for a lot of voters who may be on the fence for Kamala Harris, for example, to then go ahead and vote for this ticket as well. Did this choice come out of the blue, or was he always a contender? He was always a contender, and he was always in the news as being one of the top choices. CNN reported yesterday that Tim Walz was one of the finalists with Josh Shapiro and Mark Kelly. Then Reuters reported yesterday that he was one of the finalists with just Josh Shapiro. So Tim Walz has always been in the conversation. He's always been an absolute favorite. And the progressive left and the regular left have all united behind him almost immediately as a choice that everybody would be happy with. So this was absolutely the do no harm choice, and he's gonna really bolster enthusiasm for Kamala Harris in a way that already, beyond what we've seen thus far. Can I play the vegan thrill ride video to show who Waltz is? I'm not sure what the vegan thrill ride video is, but if people can send me the vegan thrill ride video, then I'll be happy to play it. I'm trying to find what that is, but maybe this isn't a thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. Trump is already screaming about Waltz through his grifting fundraising emails. That's how you know it was a good choice. Absolutely. We've already covered Donald Trump's text messages that he's sending out saying that Tim Waltz is going to be responsible for doom and gloom in America. Do we know when Kamala will speak about her pick? I presume that we'll hear from Kamala at tonight's rally in Philadelphia. Can you reiterate Waltz's age? Waltz is 60. He is 1 year older than Kamala Harris. So we have a 59-year-old in Kamala Harris and a 60-year-old in Tim Walz going up against a 78-year-old in Donald Trump. And I think it's so interesting that the Trump campaign wanted to make this election a referendum on age when he is the oldest candidate in this race now by 2 decades. How important is Wisconsin in this election? Wisconsin is monumentally important in this election. Basically, here's the wall that Democrats need to win if we're going to win this election. I wonder if we can do the 270 to win and fill out an interactive map. So here's where we stand right now with pretty much the states as they are. We don't know what North Carolina and Georgia are going to look like, but let's say this is the map. This all looks pretty non-controversial. If Democrats take Wisconsin, if Democrats take Minnesota, and then if Democrats take Pennsylvania, that's 270. So for those asking whether Wisconsin is important, these 3 states right here, I don't know if you can see my cursor. You may not be able to see my cursor, but these 3 states right here, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, are enough to win Democrats the election. So for those asking, for example, whether these are important, this blue wall up in the Rust Belt is the path to victory. Now, in terms of Pennsylvania, for example, if we don't win Pennsylvania, let's say Republicans take Pennsylvania, that means that we have to win 2 of the states that are remaining. We have to win Nevada and Arizona. Actually, I think we may have to win more than that in that case. Yeah, we would have to win more. Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes would not compensate for Nevada and Arizona. So then we're looking at Nevada, Arizona, and either North Carolina or Georgia. So all of which underscores the importance of a state like Pennsylvania. So we'll just leave those there. But yeah, electoral math is going to be a thing. And just flagging right now that I have something especially interesting planned for election night. So I know it's early to ask you to make your election night plans, but especially for those internationally, please make a plan to watch this channel on election night because we have something very, very interesting coming up on this channel. And I don't promise these kind of things often. So if I'm saying it, it's because it's true. Let's do 538. Interesting to see the latest presidential polls for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. This one was from just a couple of days ago, actually this ended yesterday, Harris +3. Morning consult poll, Harris +4. I'm not familiar with TIPP insights, but Harris is leading in both of those. The YouGov poll, Harris is leading in both of those. Another morning consult, Harris is leading +1. So you'll notice that on July 30th to August 1st, Harris was leading by 1 point, and the same poll a couple of weeks later, a couple of days later rather, Harris is leading by 4. So if that shows anything, it's that the momentum is very clearly in her favor as we continue to head toward November. And these numbers have been, look, there is not a single poll here where Donald Trump is leading in the last few days. This is a New York poll. That's why Harris is +12 and +14. RMG Research is a highly rated pollster as well. Harris +5. So you have to go to July to find any polls where Donald Trump is leading. And these are state polls. So Georgia, for example, we have Trump +2 or Harris +1. So clearly close polling in the state of Georgia. In Pennsylvania, we have one pollster who says Trump is +1. Another one who says Harris is +4. So it's gonna be close, but the polling is very clearly going in one direction right now. We have some good news from an on-the-ground source in Wisconsin. Jonathan in the chat says, from my very small sample size of 3, people in Wisconsin are very excited about Waltz. So there you go, Wisconsin, a very important state, and we have some good news from the state of Wisconsin. Okay, here we go. I'm seeing now what the Minnesota State Fair video is. Let's see how I can play this.
Also win a few times, including with his daughter, who he says tricked him into going on the most extreme ride at the fairgrounds. Take a look.
Every year we as a family do something old and something new. I get to pick something, a classic, the old mill ride, to do that. And then Hope gets to pick something new.
I think we're gonna go do the slingshot.
Which I don't know what it is, and they're keeping it from me. But then we're gonna go get some food, corn dog.
I'm vegetarian.
Turkey then. And
Turkey's meat.
And Minnesota turkey special. And we will go do some of those things and report back.
Typical teenage daughter and father banter. Real funny.
We're gonna go do the slingshot.
Which I don't know what it's at. And then Hope gets to pick something new.
The turkey thing.
Old mill ride, to do that. And they're keeping it from me. But then we're gonna go get some food, corn dog.
I'm vegetarian.
Turkey then. And
Turkey's
then,
meat.
Not in Minnesota, turkey special. And we will go do some
turkey special. I'm sorry, I have to play this one more time. He goes, corn dog, and she goes, I'm vegetarian. He goes, turkey then. She goes, turkey's meat.
Which I don't know what it is, and they're keeping it from me. But then we're gonna go get some food, corn dog.
I'm vegetarian.
Turkey then. And
Turkey's
then,
meat.
Not in Minnesota, turkey special. And we will go do some of those things. And
I don't know why that's so funny to me, but that is really funny to me. Anyway, thank you for whoever it was that recommended that video, because that was fantastic. We have the official announcement from Kamala Harris on Twitter. I'm proud to announce that I've asked Tim Walz to be my running mate as a governor, a coach, a teacher, and a veteran. He's delivered for working families like us. It's great to have him on the team. So again, he hits a lot of boxes that are going to be especially important in this election. Man, that turkey thing was so funny. What a great call. Thank you to whoever said that we should watch the vegan throw ride video. It's so good. So good. You can go ahead and throw questions in the chat if you want to, and I will do my best to answer them. Come on, I can see Trump having that conversation with Don Jr. getting on the slingshot. I think that puts the difference here on full display. The notion that Donald Trump would talk to his kids already unto itself. How does Kamala Harris picking Waltz over Shapiro change my view of Harris as a candidate? That's a good question. I think that she is making smart tactical decisions, recognizing that there was worry about Shapiro's standing among progressives. Her choosing Waltz is basically a signal to progressives that she sees them, hears their concerns, and recognizes that they are an integral part of the campaign. I mean, it's, if the agenda itself isn't enough of a message to progressives, and the support that she's gotten from young people, from artists whose support groups or whose bases of support are largely Gen Z. I think the fact that she chose someone in Tim Walz who was the pick of young people, the pick of progressives for the work that he has done in the state of Minnesota is a testament to the fact that she wants to bring more young people in, that they're going to be central to this campaign, and that she's not done reaching out to them and expanding the tent and basically winning Gen Z, winning millennials. There it is. The banner is official. Harris Waltz. Let's go. Let's go. Rural organizing. Let's read this. The following is a statement from the Executive Director of Rural Organizing. As we say in the Upper Midwest, this is quite the deal. To put it mildly, we at Rural Organizing are extremely excited that Vice President Harris has chosen Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. Walz's ties to rural communities run deep. He's a teacher from rural Minnesota and has a long history of campaigning on rural issues while maintaining his commitment to his progressive values. Without a doubt, Walz's rural policy record as governor is one of the most impressive in the country. Walz is rural, progressive, and a champion of Native American rights and tribal sovereignty. As a member of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, Tim Walz represents a proud tradition of progressives who know how to deliver concrete solutions to the challenges facing small towns and rural communities. Tim Walz is the boldly progressive and proudly rural vice president we have been waiting for. So a huge endorsement for Tim Walz right there, and kind of shows how this guy is able to marry two factions of people who wouldn't otherwise be the obvious. Present some obvious benefits to a Democratic ticket. Let's hear what Trump's campaign has to say.
Well, choosing a running mate is Kamala Harris's first big decision as the Democrat Party's nominee. And with this decision, choosing Tim Walz, she has proven just how dangerously liberal she is. Tim Walz is one of the most far-left governors in America. Much like Kamala Harris, he supports wide-open borders. He supports sanctuary cities. In Minnesota, he signed a bill giving licenses to illegal immigrants. Tim Walz, like Kamala Harris, is soft on crime. He also supports the defund the police movement. In fact, In Minnesota, violent crime has increased by 21% since he has been governor. And like Kamala Harris, Tim Walz is anti-American energy. He signed a bill to ban carbon-based fuels in Minnesota by 2040. That is a threat to our national security. That is a gift to China. If Americans want to know.
So a threat to national security. Meanwhile, we have more energy independence now under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris than we ever did under Trump. And him making climate change a cornerstone of his agenda. If she thinks that's going to hurt Tim Walz with young people and progressives and millennials who are actually going to be the decisive votes and who are the biggest voting blocs in this country, she is kidding herself. That is another testament to the fact that the Trump campaign is so aggressively out of touch with Americans, so wholly owned by the oil lobby and oil and gas money. And, Tim Miller, who I do a show with on this channel called Inside the Right, tweeted, Tim Walz is younger than Brad Pitt. Or Tom Cruise is another thing there. There you go. Military bona fides right there. Do I think that this ticket is the Democrats' best shot to success, or do you think it can be a repeat of 2016 with Hillary? And how do we avoid that kind of defeat? I think this is absolutely the safest and most effective choice in terms of our shot at success. Easily, hands down. Tim Walz, again, we are looking at somebody who balances out the ticket in terms of Midwest versus California. He is a teacher. He is a coach. He is a veteran. He is rural. He is progressive. Tim Walz is the total package. And I guarantee you he will continue to energize the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that had fallen out of favor with Joe Biden. The progressive wing of the Democratic Party was not going to vote for Joe Biden. He had lost too much support. Joe Biden was losing the support of young people. Tim Walz will bring all of that back. For anything that Kamala Harris herself hasn't been able to bring back, Tim Walz is the best shot in terms of keeping those people energized and motivated. And you'll see when he gets on the campaign trail how effective of a speaker he's been. I'm getting this question a lot. Do you think Secretary Buttigieg will be named Secretary of State when we win? I sure hope so. That would be absolutely my top choice. Also, I think Pete Buttigieg is a polyglot. I believe the reporting suggests that he knows 7 languages. Pretty good choice for Secretary of State, especially as opposed to Donald Trump's Secretary of State, who I believe was Rex Tillerson, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was the Secretary of State. So an oil guy or somebody who's actually smart and can actually speak to people in other countries in their own languages. So I'll take one more question here. Before I do that, again, just 2 quick notes. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel and you want to support the work that I do, support these live streams, and also stay on top of the live streams because I'm going to be streaming the rally tonight in Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris's first appearance live with Tim Walz. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything to do so, but it's a great way to support my work. And the other thing, of course, is if you want to support me further, I have a book coming out called Shameless in just a few days. Right now, J.D. Vance's book is ranked higher than mine, and so please do not let J.D. Vance beat me. So if you'd like to support my work and also stick it to J.D. Vance so that he falls behind and so that I have some shot of making the New York Times bestseller list, please pre-order Shameless. I've pinned the link to Shameless at the top of the chat. You can also search for Shameless on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you get books, it's going to be available. Bookshop.org, if you want to support indie booksellers, you can go to bookshop.org. All of that is included in the link that's pinned to the top of the comments here. I got the comment. You mentioned living in Los Angeles is rough getting early news. Try living in Hawaii. What is the local time in Hawaii? It is 4:43 a.m., which means that this news broke at 3 a.m., so I feel your pain. I'm getting the question, did I book Hulk Hogan for election night? Is that the surprise? You know what? 30 years ago, that would have been, I think, the coolest thing that I could have possibly done, booking Hulk Hogan for election night. But no, that is not the surprise. I do have a surprise for election night, and you'll get more on that later. We'll do one more question here. All right, we have another Los Angelino here who woke up at 6 a.m. with the news. By the way, again, one last note. My book tour, I'll be live in person with Jen Psaki next week on the 14th, and that's going to be in D.C. So if you are in D.C. or live near D.C. and you want to come see me and Jen Psaki live in person, August 14th, you can click the link pinned in the show notes. Pinned in the comment section of this chat. This is my alarm to wake me up at 7:45 in the morning. A quaint time where I thought I might be able to sleep a little bit later than I did today. And of course, if you want to see me in person with Jon Favreau in Los Angeles, you can click the link at the top of the chat as well for tickets to the Los Angeles show. Okay, and one last thing, I'm going to play this video one last time because it's so good.
With his daughter, who he says tricked him into going on the most extreme ride at the fairgrounds. Take a look.
Every year we as a family do something old and something new. I get to pick something, a classic, the old mill ride, to do that. And then Hope gets to pick something new.
I think we're gonna go do the slingshot.
Which I don't know what it is, and they're keeping it from me. But then we're gonna go get some food, corn dog.
I'm vegetarian.
Turkey then. And
Turkey's
then,
meat.
Not in Minnesota, turkey's special. And we will go do some of those things and report back.
Typical teenage daughter and father.
All right. That's so good. I will be sharing that video later on. Okay, we will leave it there. Thank you everybody for watching, and again, make sure to subscribe so that we can focus on the rally tonight in Philly. I will be live streaming that rally later on tonight. I'll set the live stream now so you can head over to my channel and click notify me to be notified as soon as that rally begins, and I'll make sure to cover it. For those who've woken up with me out here on the West Coast, thank you. And for those on the East Coast, consider yourselves lucky that you got a little bit more sleep than the rest of us did. And here we go. We have the official ticket, Harris-Walz ticket, as we head to 2024, taking on Trump and J.D. Vance. I could not feel better about the position that we're in right now. So I hope everybody's very excited. This is the ticket that's going to win us the White House in November and win Democrats their races up and down the ballot as we head toward the most important election of our lifetimes here. So again, thank you all for joining me today, and catch you later on this evening.